What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So who has the advantage in this 2026 midterms? Democrats, Republicans? Are Democrats going to be able to take over the House? Are Republicans going to be able to maintain the Senate? We're going to take a look at some of the latest polling when it comes to one race in Ohio. And then we're also going to look at overall, do Democrats have an advantage to win the House? So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to get right into this. We'll take a look at some of the polling first. So we're going to look at the generic congressional vote. Now, I have 2024 here. I have that for a reason. We'll talk about that in a second. But what we really want to be focused on is 2026. So let's start at 2026. So this is Real Clear Politics. What they do is they average the latest polls. And so when we're looking at the 2026 generic vote, this is what we're looking at. So right now, Democrats plus 2.9%. Now, this is an average. Okay, we'll look at some of the individual polls in a second, but they're averaging this. So plus 2.9%. Republicans are at 41.3%. Democrats are at 44.2%. And so now let's look at some of the individual pollsters. We have the Economist YouGov poll that was conducted between 8/29 and 9/2. You have 1,549 registered voters. We have Democrats at 43. Republicans at 39. The spread there is +4. We have the Emerson poll. This was conducted between 8/25 and 8/26. 1,000 registered voters. Democrats at 43. Republicans at 43. We have a tie there. And move on down to Reuters. So the Reuters Ipsos. This was conducted between 8/22 and 8/24. We have 1,022 adults. We have Democrats at 38, Republicans at 34, and so that's Democrats +4. And then we have this Quantis Insight poll. This was conducted between 8/11 and 8/13, 1,000 registered voters, Democrats at 45, Republicans at 42, Democrats are +3. And looking at Senegal, and this was conducted between 8/7 and 8/9, 1,500 registered voters. We have Democrats at 47, Republicans at 46. Democrats there are +1. And then we'll look at the last one here, CNBC. This was conducted between 7/29 and 8/3. 1,000 adults. Democrats at 49, Republicans at 44. Democrats there are +5. And so just looking at the latest polling, and we went back to 7/29, so it's about a month and a half here, we see that Democrats are dominating when it comes to the generic ballot, okay? So that's a good sign for Democrats. And the reason why it's a good sign is if we look back in 2024, the last polls that they conducted, this was in, 10/31, between 10/31 and 11/2, so right before the election in 2024, you see that Republicans overall, on average, they had an advantage, +2.7. So +2.7 here, +2.9 for Democrats. And we know that in the House, Republicans were able to maintain the House, maintain the majority there. So this is an indicator here. However, what we need to understand is this was conducted right before the election in 2024. We're still a year out. So these numbers are going to change. This 2.9%, that could go up even higher, or it can go down lower. And so we'll have to see, and we're going to follow this very closely. But if we see numbers around this +2.9, +3, +4, that is definitely going to be good for Democrats, and it will probably mean that they will be able to take over the House. And if we just look at history, history tells us that Democrats will probably be able to take control at least of the House, because history shows us, for the most part, I think out of 22 elections, only 2 went the other way. But if you have a Republican as president, or if you have a Democrat as president, the opposition party generally will be able to take over at least the House when it comes to that midterm election. And so that is what we're looking at right now. There's a potential that Democrats will be able to take over at least the House. Now, when it comes to the Senate, it's going to be much harder for them to take over the Senate. And part of the reason why it's going to be much harder is because they're going to have to win. They're going to have to flip some seats. basically. So Democrats have 13 seats that they need to hold in the Senate, but then they also need to flip 4 seats. And so flipping those 4 seats, that's going to be a real hard task for them to do. And I'm going to show you the reason why. Let's go back here. We're going to take a look at Ohio, because Ohio is one of the states. It's a must win for Democrats in order to have a chance of taking back the Senate. And let me just show you. I want to show you a little bit of the history here. So Ohio is now a red state. However, in the past, it was a blue state. And so if we go back and we look during the Obama years, so Obama was able to win in 2008 and 2012. Guess what? He won Ohio both times. And then we fast forward to 2024, and we see the margin here that Trump won. Trump won Ohio plus 11. Okay, so that's the new margin that we're looking at here. And then when we look at the Senate races, okay, so J.D. Vance ran. He won over Tim Ryan. And then the latest win for Republicans, you had Moreno. He beat Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown was the incumbent. And so it's interesting because we see this race, and I'll show you a little bit more information about that race in a second. And so you see Moreno wins here, and then Husted was appointed after J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance is vice president now, so he had to, I don't want to say give up his seat, but that seat was vacant, and they filled that seat. They filled that seat with Husted. So that's what we're looking at right now. And just giving you even more information when it comes to demographics, all statewide offices, the GOP is controlling those. Legislature, GOP has the majority. House delegation, you have 10 Republicans and 5 Democrats in the House. And then senators, you have 2 Republican senators. And so that's what we're looking at right now when it comes to the Republicans' control of Ohio. Now, going even a step further, I want to take a look at these individual polls, because we have Sherrod Brown and Husted. They're going to be running against each other. And looking at some of the latest polling here, and we'll do the average first. So doing the average, this is Real Clear Politics. It's plus 4.5, and that's in Husted's favors. Husted is 49.5, and Brown is 45. Okay, looking at some of the latest polling, you have the Emerson poll. This is conducted between 8:18 and 8:19. You have 1,000 registered voters, and margin of error there is 3. Husted at 50, and Brown at 44. And the spread there is plus 6. And then looking at the last poll here, Bowling Green YouGov, conducted between 4:18 and 4:24. So this was conducted a long time ago. And so it's probably not the best indicator, but you had 800 registered voters. Margin of error was 4.1. Husted was at 49. Brown was at 46. The spread there was plus 3. Now, if we go back, and I want to show you this because I think this is interesting. So we just saw this one here, 49.5, 45. Now, when we look at polling from the final results from 2024, as I stated, Sherrod Brown, he lost, and he was at 46.5%. Moreno was at 50.1%. Okay, so looking at this and comparing this to what we're seeing in the latest polls, they're very close, very similar, right? And so actually, Sherrod Brown, if you really want to look at it, Sherrod Brown was doing better he did better in the final results than he's doing right now. Okay, so that should be something that Democrats are looking at. So Husted right now is plus 4.5, and the final vote count in 2024 was plus 3.6. And so Sherrod Brown has a lot of work to do. However, Sherrod Brown, he's won in Ohio before. So if he can catch his mojo, or whatever you want to say, he could potentially win in Ohio. He's probably the best chance that Democrats have to take back Ohio, or at least take one of those Senate seats. So it's a good choice, in my opinion, that Sherrod Brown is there. Now, Sherrod Brown, he no longer has to run on Biden's record or Kamala Harris's record, if you want to say that. Now he can run against the current administration's record. And so a lot is going to depend on how our economy is doing. What does inflation look like next year? That's going to play a major role. And I always go back to inflation because inflation is something that we all feel. So if prices are up there, we're all going to feel that. If we're saying the economy is bad, Some people might not feel that the economy is, but they might not feel it. But when you go to the grocery store, let's say you go twice a week, you're going to know things are bad because the prices are very expensive. And then you find out every month you have less and less money. And so that's why we're really watching inflation, and we're watching how the job approval, the president's job approval, when it comes to inflation. Right now, it's bad. It's in the double digits negative disapproval. And so if we continue to see that next year, well, then you can almost rest assured that some of these seats are going to flip, and Sherrod Brown has an opportunity to win in Ohio if we see numbers like we're looking at right now. Right now, it's anticipated that the Federal Reserve will lower interest rates, and that might be good for some, but guess what? That is probably going to push inflation even higher. So people who are struggling right now, buckle up, because it might get even worse in the future. And if that is the case, then you're going to have a lot of people they're going to be upset. They're going to be upset with the current administration, and they are going to blame Republicans who are running in the midterms for that. Okay, they're these politicians, and that's why you have some politicians deciding to not run. And a few weeks ago, we heard that Senator Ernst is not going to run again in Iowa. And that's probably part of the reason. The big part of the reason is she doesn't want to have to defend President Trump's record or defend the current situation when it comes to the economy and when it comes to inflation and all of that. And I'm sure they ran the numbers. I'm sure her campaign, before she decided that she was going to run, they looked at the numbers and they said, you know what, this is going to be a hard race if we stay in. And that's probably why they decided to go ahead and step aside. So we'll have to see what happens in Iowa. That's another state that we're going to take a look at. But ultimately, when it comes to the Senate, Republicans still have a major advantage, but Democrats still can win. They have an opportunity to win, and there are a few seats that they're going to need to win. Iowa's one, Ohio's another, and Maine is another. So we'll have to see what happens in the future. But what I want to know is, who do you think will win the House, and who do you think will win the Senate? You think Democrats will win the House and win the Senate, or you think Republicans will be able to maintain the Senate and win the House? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.